The HCS is presented by Astro Gaming and AMD.
Hello Halo fans, welcome back here to another day of HCS. We're getting ourselves into Pro Series number 2 here for the ANZ region. Bit of a week break here before we get into number 2 here. We had number 1 that gave us all the roller coasters that Halo Infinite has been providing all throughout the tail end of 2021 and now at the start of 2022. I'm excited for us to jump into the action for today. I'm excited to bring you guys 2 wonderful gentlemen who's going to be talking about all the action for Halo Infinite today. I've got Bluey and Hoggy by my side one more time here. Lads, welcome back. It's been a long time since we've been able to talk about some Halo. Bluey, we'll start with you, mate. How you been here in 2022?
Yeah, really good. I had a really good holiday, some really good time off, also a really good Halo day, as some might put it. I'm super excited to get back into the casting, and especially after seeing the games that happened last week. Really good to see that none of our players are all that fatigued, and they all came back absolutely roaring to go. And I'm super excited to be here with my bald brother, Hoggy. How you been, mate?
What are you talking about, mate? Look at this. There's some hair there.
There's something there, guys. There's something there. There's a little lick of something.
We're similar. Maybe I'll shave it for next week. There you go.
Yeah, let's do it.
Maybe next week I'll come in with a bald cap as well. I don't think I can get rid of these luscious locks so far. I'll come in with a bald cap and we can be the trio of bald brothers here on the HCS.
Just shave it, mate. I won't even charge you for it. It's one buzz. That's all it takes.
If someone wants to pay me, a couple $100 to shave my head, I'll do it here for HCS. Anybody in chat, you can try and reach out to me and see if I can get it done. But lads, let's start setting our sights on last week here and talk about HCS Pro Series number 1. It was an interesting tournament for us to go through. Obviously, it is a top 8 team going in with a double elimination bracket, and we had some exciting storylines for us to go through. I think coming into 2022, nobody really expected the kind of twists and turns that we got given here. Our first round came in with the quarterfinals, all 2-0s across the board. I guess the only real kind of crazy storyline that we saw was Malicious, a team that came in with some big names and some fresh new faces, were able to take down Direwolves in a 2-0, and then our semi-finals was all the status quo once again here. We see the Chiefs and the Divine Minds getting themselves another series victory on the board here in HCS, and that's where we were able to set our sights on this winners final. And I guess everybody at home in the ANZ region is looking at that and going, Divine Mind were able to beat the Chiefs. What happened here? I mean, it was an insane series for us to touch on here, Bluey, because Divine Mind, they came in swinging against the Chiefs and they got it done in 2 maps.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Divine Mind came in, caught the Chiefs completely off guard. We finally saw a bit of a hole in the armor of the Chiefs, and Divine Mind took that full throttle, just went in as hard as possible and really gave it to them in these games. We definitely saw the Chiefs have to be on their toes a bit, and Divine Mind were taking every opportunity to push back at those moments. They played really well, some really insane series overall, and just some really, really solid plays from Divine Mind, a team that a lot of people probably wouldn't have expected to beat out the Chiefs in the series.
Yeah, especially because every series we've seen so far from Divine Mind and the Chiefs has gone the way of the Chiefs, but they got it done in extremely tight strongholds. And now going into map number 2 here, Hoggy, this is where everything was on the line. It was a 50-49 between both these teams, and it felt like that the Chiefs were ever so close to be able to make this a map 3.
Yeah, and the scoreline blew out heavily to 11-kill lead, 12-kill lead at one point, and the Chiefs just managed to claw it back over and over and over again. And this is the first time we've kind of seen Divine Minds put up a strong fight against the Chiefs. And it's not even I don't want to say it's not a proper Divine Minds squad, but they've got Dante and Beaston and Stel. But even though they managed to come out on top, the series was still super close. And they proved that they can take down Chiefs, even though we'll see later on that it was a different story.
Yeah, it was insane for us to look at this winners final, because it just starts to set up this whole different storyline. Like that final kill coming in there from Slays, if that rocket was a couple of pixels to the right there, then that could have been a completely different story. I mean, maybe we would have seen the Chiefs going forward into that grand finals without having to get the bracket reset. And speaking of the grand finals here, what a way for the Chiefs to come back into this grand final with a bit of a vengeance, getting the 6-0 full bracket reset up against Divine Mind. It seems like when they came into this, Bluey, they were angry and they wanted to make their stamp back on HCS.
Yeah, bit of a vengeance, Luke, is a bit of an understatement. You know, I will coin this team as they came back as Batman, the embodiment of getting vengeance, and they just absolutely swept Divine Mind. You know, resetting the bracket and then 6-0 overall against them. Like, you'd be hard-pressed as a Divine Mind player in that moment to go, oh yeah, boys, like, we can readjust, we can take something from them. It just seemed like every game was an absolute spanking in the favor of Chiefs. Barcode was putting up huge plays, huge numbers. See that shock rifle accuracy and precision right there. Like, it was just disgusting. Every player of the Chiefs, it's like they flicked on a switch and were like, we're not letting this happen. We're going to deny Divine Mind absolutely everything we can in every single map, every single series, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, it really felt like they came in, you know, with this mentality of completely shutting out Divine Mind and Hoggy. That's exactly what they did with, you know, as we see here across a lot of these maps with the bracket reset. It just felt like every single time that they went into these objective-based kind of games, that it just felt like the Chiefs had the number of Divine Minds at every stand.
Yeah, and I didn't have to cast last week, so I got the chance to watch Barcode at the same time as the mainstream. And going into the series, they were hyping each other up. They're like, this is our series. We're going to win this. We're going to dominate them. They came in and they dominated them. And you saw afterwards how happy Barcode was. And he was popping off towards the end. He was making plays for his teams, as you saw in the replays. And Barcode was so excited. His team was so hype after they won that. And they wanted to come in and dominate their final, which is exactly what they did.
Yeah, exactly. It was just crazy the fact that they're able to come in with such confidence, going from that elimination bracket and being able to go into that grand final with the gusto they did. And I think they're going to come out all guns blazing here in Pro Series number 2, and I'm excited to see what they can put up, especially with some of the different names we've got going in today. But obviously that elimination bracket had its own storylines as well, lads, because it seems like every single time that teams did drop down into that elimination bracket, you never know what you were going to get. Disruptor fans were a massive surprise for everybody. They've always been on the cusp for us in this, you know, ANZ region, being around about that 6 kind of position, but the way they went about their business in Pro Series number 1 was extremely important for us to touch on, because these guys, they got themselves a 3rd place finish. They took Direwolves, they took Mindfreak, they took Malicious as well, who looked good in that day, and then they had to go up against the Chiefs, was albeit is where they ended up. But the fact that these Disruptor fans, Bluey, were able to come in and play such good Halo is a good sign for the rest of the ANZ region.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, maybe you're watching from another region, but Disruptor fans are actually a team with a lot of chatter behind them over here, and their players are constantly on Twitter, you know, talking with each other, getting around each other, which is always really good to see, but we've never had the opportunity to actually see them perform on main stage. So for the first time, them being on broadcast, like, boy oh boy did they put on a show. You know, shout outs to Rice here. He's the dedicated KBM player for Disruptor fans, and he absolutely put on a clinic and really showed, you know, what a strong, dedicated KBM player in the space of Halo can do for the game and do for his team.
Yeah, exactly. He was able to put up some big numbers here in this series up against Malicious. Like, you know, you look towards this final map in the Slayer, he was able to put the most Slayers on the board here, Hoggy, and the fact that he's been able to make his stamp as one of the best KBM players that we've got here in ANZ, maybe even potentially in the world for Halo Infinite, is a really good start for the Disruptor fans.
Yeah, and there's things that you'll see in these replays from Rice that you just can't do on a controller. The way he just whips around and hits shots that, you know, a controller player wouldn't be able to do, and it allows him to keep people one shot when he shouldn't. And that was something that Barco was pointing out when they were playing against them. Even though the Chiefs won comfortably in the end, there was times that Barco was like, man, how's he hitting that shot? How's he doing this and that, you know? And it's just the nature of the KBM, you know?
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, you really do see a lot of these other members for Disruptor fans really start to step up. We saw Cluesy there with that overkill. They really did start to put up a lot of numbers, and unfortunately, you know, everybody who seems to come up against the Chiefs do eventually fall to the sword. And, you know, for everybody playing along at home, unfortunately, Disruptor fans, they've made some roster changes, so they're not going to be here today, but we still get to see a lot of their core members floating around. So I'm excited to see what Rice and Jordan can do on this Mindfreak roster today, see what they can bring to that roster, see whether or not this ejects them into another top 3 finish here, Bluey, because right now, if Rice is able to continue to give the info to his team and slay out as well, he can really start to solidify himself as a top player here in ANZ.
Yeah, I definitely think he's a name to pay attention to, especially in the Halo space here in ANZ, because, you know, he is someone who performed so well and had that, you know, the different input, which is like such an eye-opener for a lot of people watching competitive Halo. We're only really used to seeing those players on controller, especially here in the ANZ region, but to have one player, you know, that sort of star player within a core roster as your dedicated KBM player who can perform on main stage, as we saw last week, you know, is super important to have, and it's a great tool to have under the wing. So it's interesting to see what teams might do further on in molding those kind of players.
Yeah, and I think, you know, across the entire roadmap that we've got here for HCS, there certainly could be teams that start to pick up those KBM players and really start to integrate those extra bits that those keyboard and mouse players can bring to a team. But lads, time for us to start to talk about HCS Pro Series number 2 here. The format has stayed the same coming in from Pro Series number 1. We had our top 4 teams from the previous Pro Series, and now going to get ejected back into this one. We had to have another open series to figure out which 4 teams can come in from that and try and compete in an 8-team double elimination bracket for today. Top 4 teams that come in from today are going to be going into next week as well, ladies and gentlemen. So it is all about trying to secure that top 4 for today for these teams and really start to prove themselves on the main stage here, Hoggy, because, you know, we've seen across the Pro Series so far, if you have those consistent results, you get those extra bit of tournament dubs under your belt, and then it's going to start meaning good form going into the Super.
Yeah, the points are so crucial. You even saw with Malicious last week. You could say that maybe they're a bit of a throw-together team, but there's players in that roster that want to continually grab points. So even if they don't want to stay together, they need to be getting points. So players there's a lot of team changes going on, so we can see that from probably today as well, and like throughout the weeks going on, that teams are sort of changing up to kind of get points, keep points, try to find the right roster. So it's interesting how things are unfolding, but the points are the most important. That's everything. Everyone's gunning for the points.
Exactly. Everyone needs to make sure they've got those HCS points, and they're all tied to each of these players as well. So that's probably why we've seen a bit of roster mania coming into here for 2022. But lads, let's have a look at our bracket for today. As we said, we've got a few fresh faces that are going to be joining us here on the Pro Series number 2. And an interesting one for us to touch on, lads. Obviously, it's a massive team that's going to be joining us here for the Pro Series number 2. Bluey, we've got Immunity finally coming out of their 9-year slumber to join us here in Halo Infinite. I'm excited to see what kind of damage they can do for us today.
Oh, man, like, it's so crazy seeing this team, like, finally here on main stage. To put in, like, a bit of context, I was thinking about this before, you know, like, this roster, you know, like Voltage and, like, you know, these names that we've seen in the ANZ region for so long. These are guys that I looked up to in Halo when I was still in high school. And it's crazy to see them come into a completely new game now in Infinite, and they're doing just as well as they did back then. It's like insane. It's actually mind-blowing that we're going to be able to see them playing today.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, the fact that we've got a team like Immunity who's been able to grace us for today, and I'm excited to see what they can get done. But, Hoggy, on the other side of this, you know, we've got a team like Fraggers who's coming in here, and it's one of those teams that you touched on that was able to make their way into this thanks to the HCS points. So these guys have, you know, a pretty good roster. They've got Ingestix, they've got Juckle, they've got Flex Reigns, and a brand new player for us, Lucas, who's been able to join us. Only 17, this kid being able to join in Halo Infinite. So I'm excited to see what the old guns can do with this new kind of younger player, because we've already seen it work with a team like Malicious.
Yeah, a bit of a throw-together team this week, but on points, they get into the top 4. You've got Ingestix, who's already a mainstay on Mindfreak, or was on Mindfreak. Flex Reigns, who's been with the Chiefs multiple times, subbing in. Then you got Juckle, who said he didn't want to play Infinite and wasn't going to play Infinite due to personal reasons. He's back now, and we saw him in the qualifiers early on, the very first tournaments we had, the Opens. And he was dominating in the games he was in, and those games were against tough opponents. So I'm super glad to see that he's back. And Lucas coming in, first tournament, he's got to show up and put in for his team, because they could get into the top 4. There's a very high chance. They're versing Direwolves first, who you could say are slumping a little bit right now. Obviously, they come off a second place finish in last year. Coming into this year, they're not looking too hot. So this is a good opportunity for them to push into the top 4 right off the bat.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see what the boys and the Fraggers can do here and see whether or not we get to see them on the main stage as well here. Ladies and gentlemen, before we do start to jump into the Pro Series, once again, it's time for you guys to see if you can use your wallets here to start to represent Croc Gang in-game. You can go into the store, you can get this ANZ bundle, you can start to represent the nameplate, you can even represent yourself with a nice little sniper skin on top as well. You know, lads, I was talking to you guys before we went live here on the broadcast. Obviously, I'm the greatest Halo Infinite player that has ever graced the game. So you know, whenever I see the Croc Gang people starting to float around in my rank games, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go easy on you, and I'm not going to try and farm you this time around. You get a little bit of something because you're, you know, a Croc Gang representative. And Blue, it's always nice to see people be able to represent their region in a game like Halo Infinite and really start to wear the badge proud.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. I feel as though I've been seeing like a lot of our pro players start to rep that emblem and sort of like the color on that sniper as well. So it is really cool. It is really cool to back your region. And of course, if you don't just want to do it for ANZ, you have the other regions there to support too. So it's a really cool little content package to be able to get a hold of to show your support for the game overall.
Yeah, it's always good because, obviously a bit of the proceeds do go to the TOs as well. So you're being able to give back to the guys who have been able to put on these sick broadcasts for you guys at home as well, so you guys can enjoy Halo Infinite in its entirety. But ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to start talking about the competitive Halo. Time for us to jump into our first series for today. It's going to be an exciting one for us, lads, because we get to see Divine Mind once again, and BBR's back, baby. So Hoggy, it's so exciting for us to start to talk about this series because it's always good to have these returning teams come back into it, and BBR is just one of those teams that's super exciting to watch.
Yeah, BBR weren't able to play last week, but they're back this week. They don't have Dante, though, because Dante's on Divine Minds. So now Dante's not with BBR. They've got CodeStar filling in for them as their sub. I don't think he's going to stay on that team into the future, so he is just subbing for this tournament and maybe next. But this team is a team that's performed well previously.
Yeah.
And then Divine Minds, that they're at the top, and they've got Dante now.
Exactly. It's super exciting for us to jump into this Divine Mind roster because Bluey, obviously it's a team so far that has been a stalwart for, in that top 2 kind of region here for ANZ. They've brought Beastin into this roster as well, and as we said, Dante, who's been floating around here for Divine Mind. And, Pro Series number 1, they were able to take down the Chiefs at least once here, but it's all about trying to make sure they get that number 1 slot here in Pro Series number 2.
Yep, exactly. It's consistency at this point. Hopefully they've gone back, ironed out some of the faults that they felt as though that they had last week, especially after a tough opponent like the Chiefs. But that's your foundational standpoint, right? That's where you want to proceed from. So it's going to be interesting how they come into this series today. And as Hoggy mentioned, there is a bit of a switcheroo with the rosters. They have Dante on their team now. Super interesting that he's going to be placed on this roster against his former teammates and friends too. It's going to be really tough. I'm not sure who I would point to as the team that's going to come out on top in this series. It's really just too hard to predict.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, one of those kind of coin flippy games for us to have a look here. And as you did say, Dante last week was putting up some big numbers here for Divine Mind. So I'm really looking to see if he's able to continue those numbers going up against the previous team. And, going into this, Hoggy, it's always, an interesting storyline to talk about in these competitive games. When you go up against a previous team that you've been on, and BBR, they're probably out looking for blood as well. The fact that Dante has changed over to Divine Minds going into this, they're certainly looking to try and hold no punches here against, Divine Mind.
Yeah, BBR really want to come in hot against Divine Mind. They haven't been able to play last week, so they're coming back in this week. They've added in CodeStar to their roster, who is very well known around the Halo scene in
Feels
ANZ.
like you're holding their tongue. You're holding your tongue there, Hoggy. You don't want to give me.
He's been around since Halo 3, so the fact that he's always been near the top, and unfortunately for Cody, he's always been second. He's always been second. He could never quite win, unfortunately for CodeStar. But the fact that he's coming in and he can step into Dante's shoes, the fact that they played through the open bracket to get here as well, that's a big standing for them. And Brattles as well on top of that, he's got to perform today because I think he's the X factor for them.
Yeah, it really does feel like that BBR have got kind of a long road ahead of them, but the fact that they've been able to slug it through this open bracket and get into, a Pro Series the first time around is always big for them. And, obviously you touched on the fact that CodeStar has always been the bridesmaid, unfortunately never the bride. Who knows? Maybe today's the day that BBR start to shatter all those shackles and they get through everybody here. They go through Divine Mind, they go on the big hectic run, and maybe we're singing the song of BBR going into Pro Series number 3. And exciting for us to talk about a lot of these returning teams, Blue, because, we talked about the fact that we've got Immunity today. BBR's coming in. We've got this team Fragsters who's coming across. We've Mind Freak with this roster mania that's going through. We've got so many different storylines that are throwing through Pro Series, and it always just makes us be able to build up towards that Super where we'll be able to find the culmination of a lot of these rosters.
Yeah, I really love the idea that today is I feel as though we painted it back in our very, very first broadcast of this idea of Infinite bringing a whole bunch of the old and then coming in with the new. And it feels like today we're finally hitting that with a lot of these teams that are going to be showcased. It's massive. It's super exciting. I know there's a bunch of people playing today that when I was in high school, I used to watch them at LANs, and now I'm going to be watching them here play Infinite. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous the fact that we've been able to mesh together the old dogs and even some brand new kids as well. Obviously, we're taught the fact that Lucas is 17 playing around here, players like Rice who are 19. We've even got some old boys who are 35 that's playing a tournament today. Like, it's ridiculous that you can have an esport like this where you've got people who are, in their mid-30s being able to frag up against kids that are 17 who have probably been cranking 90s in Fortnite for the last 15, kind of months. So it's ridiculous that we have an esport like this and we're able to showcase it. So let's start talking about these maps, boys. Let's start getting into the nuts and bolts of this series, because I think this is where it really comes apart for a lot of these teams, talking about whether or not they're objective-based, whether or not they've been able to capitalize on a lot of these Slayer maps that we've been seeing here. And Hoggy, the fact that we started on CTF, I think this is a pretty penultimate game mode for a lot of these teams to be looking towards, because you look at the Chiefs, they are absolutely dominant on CTF. And when we talked to Pips last time, he was talking about the fact that in ANZ, they've been playing CTF all wrong, but it still blows some of these teams out of the water. So I'm really starting to look towards teams like Divine Mind and BBR to start to step up their CTF game.
Yeah, well, something interesting that we can point out, looking at these maps, at least the first one specifically, is this is the map that BBR beat the Chiefs on.
True.
When they played, not the last one, but the previous one. BBR beat Chiefs on CTF Aquarius. So this is a perfect map for BBR to start on, because I think BBR, I don't want to say they have Aquarius worked out, but it seems like they know how to play CTF Aquarius. They just know how to play that game mode. So the fact they were able to take down Chiefs bodes well for them going into this series, especially for game 1 against Divine Minds.
And I think, that's a best place for us to start, right, Bluey? Because if you're able to kick off with a very dominant victory on a map type like CTF, especially on Aquarius, you can start to ride that momentum into a Slayer as well, especially if you have some people who get to have that sick little warm-up on Aquarius. It is one of those maps that really just leads to a lot of these good kind of sightlines and be able to slay together in these pairs. And if you're on a team like BBR, you want to start out as red hot as you possibly can, because we saw what happened to Divine Mind in that grand final last week, where the Chiefs were able to blow them out of the water early on, and it felt like Divine Minds were never able to come back into that series. So I think, BBR is certainly looking to try and have a hot little start here on Aquarius.
Yeah, it's like CTF on Aquarius especially is one of those maps where you need to set control, you need to set pace, you need to start getting your spawns down, time when you're going to run the flag appropriately, all things like that. And if you lose that kind of momentum as your first map, then yeah, it's very tough to bring that back into a second, because you're going to be so frazzled, just feeling like, well, where did we lose? Where did we mess up? How can we adjust? And going into a Slayer match, you have no time to really think about that, because then it becomes all about slays. You've got no objective to worry about, and it's purely just based on kills. So that could be a bit of a switch up, because Divine Mind's roster does have such strong, just like overall slayers. But as Hoggy just pointed out before, like BBR, especially on CTF Aquarius, have really good objective control. So seeing who manages to actually set the pace in this game is going to be, I think, like sets up for the rest of the series.
Yeah, and I think that's something interesting for us to touch on, right, is this kind of objective control. And Hoggy, we've seen it a lot of times on these Aquarius maps where, teams that are able to control the active camo, teams that are able to control the heat wave as well, especially when you're looking at players across this like Barcode and Pips who have been insane with these kind of shotguns when they walk around. Are we looking towards BBR to really start to control a lot of these power-ups here in Aquarius and really just trying to develop that into a little bit more of these points on the board for CTF? Or do we feel like Divine Mind, after the shellacking they've been given by the Chiefs, have kind of worked out CTF so far?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned controlling the power-ups, because I actually got the chance to watch a lot of the games, the qualifying games in the Open, and I watched pretty much all of the BBR games, and there was periods where they were losing games because they weren't getting the objective controls, if that makes sense. The power-up weapons, sorry. So like they weren't getting the camos, they weren't getting the heat waves, they weren't getting the things that would help them control the maps, and they were losing those maps. And then when they figured that out, that's when they became a lot better. And that's something that they're going to have to work on today, because if they falter on that again today, they're going to be in trouble, because it's a bit different against the Open teams as it is against the Pro teams, especially Divine Minds, of course.
I think that's a very astute point to bring up here. The fact that you might be able to drop a few things in the Open bracket and you don't really get punished for it, but you're going here into a Pro series against Divine Mind, who has shown us time and time again that they are very much a top 2 team here in ANZ, and it's exciting to see whether or not BBR have tightened those screws, come into Pro series and really can make a good run here. Lads, we're still waiting on a few of these players to jump into the lobby so far. We've got a special little video here. Obviously, everybody who did watch Raleigh did know that our boy Barcode has been the Lore Master. Let's go check and see if he still is the Lore Master.
What is the Arbiter's real name?
Dude.
I would have no idea.
I'm out. There's no way.
I don't even know how to say it. You giving up?
I'm out.
You're out? Okay, it's
Thelvadam? Thelvadam? What do you say? It's TH.
Thelvadam? I did not know that either. I thought his name was just...
What is the Master Chief's actual rank?
Just guess.
5-star general.
They called him by his rank once in the campaign, I'm pretty sure.
Master Chief?
Yeah.
Is that like a trick question?
No?
This is Master Chief, that's his rank.
Yeah, it's Master Chief Petty Officer.
Oh,
Yeah.
my bad.
Alright, how many Halo rings are there?
How many Halo rings?
Come on, even I know this.
Aren't there like 12?
I know it's not more than 10.
7.
Yeah.
9?
7.
Oh, I wanted to say that.
What are the hunters made of?
Oh, I knew that. Oh my god, wait.
You would know this?
They're made by like loads of individual cells, but like how are they called again, man? Like these orange things, man.
How do you know this stuff?
Like their armor?
Not like what's inside the armor.
I'm just gonna say they're made like by millions of cells.
I don't know. I thought they were just made of armor.
Worms.
Worms? No, there's no way I would have ever knew that. No.
I want to know what pro players get any of these questions right.
Does Barcode take 1, Mark? What is the name of the Halo ring in Halo 2?
Delta Halo,
In what year does the original Halo trilogy take place?
2552,
What is the species name of the elites?
St. Ely,
Who created Cortana?
Dr. Halsey,
What are the hunters made of?
Legola Worms, Master Chief, Petty Officer, Spartan Force, Truth, Regret and Mercy, Thel Vadum, Sergeant Johnson, Pillar of Autumn, Gravemind, The Vanished, Newman Buster, The Librarian, Dr. Halsey and Captain Keys, Carter, George, Emil, Kat, June, Noble 6.
Absolutely insane in the server, absolutely insane when it comes to lore as well. I think the fact that Barcode single-handedly dispatched of North America and EU in lore is just ridiculous to us. The fact that he was just able to come into that. And see, he didn't even break a sweat, Blue. Like, every single one of those questions, he was just, bang, instantaneously on it. Didn't even care about it. You look at all the North American EU players, they're starting to struggle. They're not quite sure what's going on. They're probably thinking about their sends or their controllers or anything like that. But Barcode, he's all about the lore, and as a lore person myself, when I come from my own games, it is super exciting to see these pro players who enjoy it as much as they do when they're able to frag on the server.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see like what his split is between multiplayer time and then campaign played time. I can only imagine the thousands of hours equate on both sides. Like, just ridiculous to be able to pump out those answers one after another like he did. Like, you know, shout outs to Barcode. Of course, we do it all the time. But yeah, multiplayer and campaign, absolute monster.
Yeah, I remember he was talking about it on his stream, you know, not that long ago, and he was actually shocked that a lot of these players don't know a lot of the questions. I think that was the biggest thing to me, was he was just like, oh yeah, it's simple. And then a lot of these other people are just like, how do you remember all this stuff? And he's like, oh, it's fine. You know, you've played the multiplayer, right? You don't remember every single kind of iota of information that you get given across the campaign. It's just ridiculous, Hoggy, that somebody's able to retain that much information, and obviously being able to replay the campaign as well is always a big help. But I mean, just Barcode is such a shining star here for ANZ. We don't get to see him in this series, ladies and gentlemen, but we do get to see him across today. I think it's just amazing for us that we've been able to rally behind this kind of beacon of knowledge and beacon of star power so early on in Halo Infinite.
No, definitely. Barcode's a freak. I can't believe he knows so much about the lore, because I probably couldn't tell you anything. I'd just be like all the other players there. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, I've played the campaigns, but I don't remember much about it, that's all. So it's just crazy, man. How does he know the lore and just be that good? It's just, he literally is a Halo freak.
Yeah.
He knows everything. It's crazy. He's just a Halo nerd, I guess is the best word.
I mean, at this point, surely we all are nerds when it comes to Halo Infinite, but, you know, it's always exciting to see a player like that. And maybe somewhere down the track, we can actually start to test his extensive knowledge of, you know, the Halo lore. Maybe we can try and trip him up in some of these interviews, lads. But we still are waiting for these players to get the server and the lobby all done and dusted so we can start to jump into some of this Halo Infinite gameplay, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting ever so close. So we're just going to start to spin some yarns here about Halo Infinite. So, Blue, obviously you said you've got a whole lot of that Halo Infinite game time in thanks to the holidays. Right now, how are you feeling like, you know, the game is starting to develop? Obviously, there's getting to a point where these teams are starting to develop a lot of these strategies on the map so far. Do we feel like the teams are getting to the point where they're really starting to hone down how to play these maps properly?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the players, especially in the ANZ region, have actually managed to pick up like a lot of the sort of I don't know how to quote it, like hidden tech sort of features that are available in the game. A lot of things like box slides and just like those super speedy slides straight off the spawn. We actually saw Barcode perform one last week on Live Fire. They spawned in a warehouse side, and immediately he was on that box slid, and he managed to get that sniper in like the first 2.5 seconds of the game, which is just ridiculous because that's an immediate retreat and you have a power weapon. And we're seeing like more and more players take advantage of those kind of mechanics within the game. So it's just one of those things where as time goes on, as players get more practice, as they sort of do these small tech things and figure out here and there, that's where we're going to see like these just insane plays develop more and more over time.
Yeah, and, you know, Hoggy, on the flip side of things, do we feel like that these teams need to start, you know, trying to, instead of they're just, you know, completely practicing in their scrims across a lot of these maps, do you still feel like that it's probably worth some of these players to try and find a little bit of that hidden tech, whether it be, you know, maybe some mechanics or even just the positions on maps and stuff like that? Do you feel like that's kind of worth for these teams to try and get themselves towards the next level here in ANZ?
Yeah, look, I think Chiefs kind of proved that in a game against Divine Mind that they played on Recharge. It was Recharge Slayer. They camped the A elevators and the tower side and the C point where Hydro is. And they just kept picking up the Bangler, the Repulsor, the Sword over and over and forcing them to come to them, Divine Minds to come into them. And it just made it so hard for Divine Minds. And I'm watching Barcode stream and they're all like, oh my god, Divine Minds are so mad right now. They're so mad. They're so mad that we're just camping here with all these weapons. But it was super, super effective and it was working. So why change it? And I think that's a perfect example of what you're asking me. You know, they are using the sandbox in different ways and working out how to utilize maps differently. And that's an interesting take on a Slayer game mode on Recharge.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see what these teams can really kind of pull together here. Lads, I've had a little bit of a whisper in my ear. Apparently there's some trash talk that's been going in the lobby right now. So we did get this live feed that came in here. So apparently Berserk is coming for Ads here, but Ads told him he's going to crumble like some Turkish bread. So I really enjoy being able to get that little bit of extra insight to these players. Like, obviously it's a whole lot of friendly banter, but if you come into a tournament like this, you need to start to smell blood in the water. You need to start coming for, even though that they might be your mates, you want to try and get the dub. And ladies and gentlemen, with this fly-through, we know that it is time for us to jump into this map. Divine Mind and BBR going head-to-head. Let's see who makes it further on in the bracket.
Yeah, it's ANZ Pro Series number 2, Divine Minds versus BBR. Let's see how this goes for BBR at the start, Bluey, because this is their map.
Yeah, exactly. Like you pointed out before, they had such good control, such good like pace before, and seeing, you know, what they're going to be able to do just off the break here is going to be really interesting because they're already pushing into their util side, but there's no, like, you know, there's no shots being exchanged cross map, which I think is the default that a lot of teams, especially in matchmaking, go for, but there's none of that. And Slays has already transitioned onto their side of the map too. Like, it's just fast, quick breaks that we're already having, and we're seeing these maps develop in such a unique way, especially from where we were when the game first launched.
Yeah, just a few kills on either side. Nothing too crazy going on yet. It's 2 down now, though, for BBR. Dante's pushing in through the front. He'll find CodeStar. CodeStar takes him on. CodeStar takes him out. CodeStar's showing what's up. Dante, sit down. Already, right off the bat, right?
Taking out, you know, his former teammates. Throwing a little bit in there, like it's already happening. This is the kind of like back-for-back play that we need to see here. We do see 3 go down for BBR, and Slays is already running the flag, taking it over to bottom cat side. He's probably just going to be running it util side, but we did see an unfortunate spawn come out for Divine Mind, with BBR just being able to spawn util and blink him, but they answered right back, and they're already making the flag run.
Yeah, the flag's already all the way over to utility. Slay's going in. He might even run a second flag here. So it's 1-0 now for Divine Minds. He's going to drop it bottom middle. He finds 2 straight in the fridge and he gets taken down. So interesting play to drop down and just take it bottom middle. He could have easily just gone utility and probably got away with the flag and forced a tough situation for BBR.
I wonder what kind of counter cap we're going to see, if any at all. We did see 3 go down for Divine Mind. We thought they'd be able to sort of like get another flag in here at some point, but that's not the case. You know, as soon as they pulled it, they were dead instantly. 3 dead instantly, and you can't make any progress off of that. We're just probably going to see a bit of stagnation come out from the map here, because with a team being a flag up, they're just going to start to play defense that little bit more. They don't need to play as aggressive off the break.
Yeah, Braddles is going to grab the flag. He's got a heat wave in hand as well. He's trying to take down one. He does. It's 2 down now for the side of Divine Minds. Dante and Slays it down. Braddles will find a third. Won't be able to take him down, but he will challenge. Beaston is just running away. He does manage to turn around though and get him. CodeStar's trying to get him as well, but there's also the camo in the hands of Divine Minds. So this flag will not move any further for BBR, and they don't get it any further. than the utility.
Yeah, flag return there, which is super unfortunate for them because overall that wasn't a bad run. You know, that's something that we'd expect to see. I do want to point out a little interesting factoid here. You can probably see on the side of BBR, they've got the numbers 2, 3, and 4 as their emblems. Dante's still repping his 1. He's still BBR, you know.
True.
Will we see some collusion here? Maybe a soft throw? Who knows, Hoggy? Seems like you have the intel when it comes to these teams.
Yeah, well, sort of, a little bit, but the flag goes in for 2-0, and maybe CodeStar needs to change to number 1. Maybe that's why they're down 2-0 right now.
It's just bad luck overall, you know, Divine Mind getting another cap in there. Like, this is not really what we expected, like, from with us talking about BBR and how they've managed to actually take that game of Aquarius CTF off of Chiefs. You know, in the past, we expected BBR to come in here, like, a little bit stronger, have a little bit more control over the map, but that's not what we're really seeing them happen at all. They're just getting, like, outslain, outdone. They don't have the map control that you really need for a CTF game, and they're just not adjusting very well at all. We do see ads coming in here and making a touch for the flag, but that being said, that's still in Divine Mind's base. Like, you're not going to be able to do much with that at all, Hoggy.
Yeah, his teammates go down, so he's not really able to do too much with it or continue it. He finds another, but he gets taken down by Dante. I don't even know how that killed him. So ads will go down. Brattles is behind enemy lines, trying to take down Dante, I think that was, but he wasn't able to get him. He just needs to stay alive for his team. He's getting absolutely mauled by Beaston, though. Beaston will take him down. So it's still in the favor of Divine Minds. They're looking strong, even though BBR keep pushing over on pink side to try to get some flanks. I don't know if that's exactly what they want to be doing.
The thing is, like, Divine Mind don't need to be the ones playing aggressively right now here. It's BBR that does. BBR really needs to start stepping on the gas and put the pressure on Divine Mind because Divine Mind's up 2. Like, BBR can't afford to give them another flag and make it 3 because the score disparity at that point is 2 blind out. It becomes really, really difficult. They're already in a difficult enough position as it is because the players are going down so quickly. They're not being able to make any space on the map. Like, as I'm saying this, that was 3 down just for a second for BBR. What kind of map direction, what kind of map control can they make with their players just dying that fast?
Yeah, great teamwork from Divine Minds over in the BBR's utility, but we saw the camo again in the hands of Divine Minds, and I mentioned it earlier, the BBR was struggling to keep the power-ups and the power weapons in their control in the open, and it's happening again straight off the bat in the Pro Series. So if they can't pull it together, it looks like this might be done. You know, there's still 7 minutes, but it's tough. It's tough for them to come back if they don't get any camos or heat waves.
Yeah, speaks a lot just to how much Divine Mind is actually just outslaying BBR right now. Remember, game 2, we have to go into a Slayer on Streets. Good little double kill coming out there from Berserk. And like, that's exactly the thing. Berserk's being able to pick up stuff like that, double kills on the fly, you know, get another kill here and there. BBR are constantly in the respawn screen. They're never able to come back as a 4, make a coordinated push. They're just going down one after another. They're just absolutely crumbling here at the seams. Like, what can they do to be able to get map control here? What do you think that they should do to slow down the pace of the game, Hoggy?
Yeah, well, Berserk's just taking full control of the front of their base. Ad spawns right behind him, but Dante's got his back with a quick back smack. Cody's up at the top of Carbine. Beaston's on top of him straight away. I'll get the call out. It's 2 down now for BBR. Beaston's pushing in. He's going to get control of utility. It's exactly what he wants. Maybe his team could get a pull and they can get it going straight through utility.
Yep, they're already just back at it again, pulling another flag, putting the pressure on BBR. BBR's not being able to respond, you know, they're pretty much stuck in their base at this point, but getting killed off of spawn. They have no ability to make it out, like, past the halfway point of the map, and then when they do, they go 4 down. Like, Divine Mind just have it all over with them when it comes to the kills. You know, BBR have to start adjusting something here, maybe focusing more on team shots, picking down one player at a time instead of trying to take individual fights because they are not winning them.
Yeah, they're really not at the moment, but BBR's pushing in. CodeStar's gone straight in. He doesn't even care about Berserk, but he'll get taken down, so rough for Cody off the bat there. 2 down now for BBR. Brattles is in the base. He's trying to get the shots out. He'll take down Berserk. Beautiful shots from Brattles. And Brattles is the one that needs to step up, right? He's the one that needs to slay for this BBR team if they want to come back in this game.
Yep, Evil with the flag right now. They're making a good run. But that being said, Dante's already, like, in their side flag. He's pulling their flag. He's dropping it bottom mid, which means just more time that BBR have to put
3 down,
pressure on. 3 down, 4 down, just as you say that. Like, BBR is just crumbling here. They were too focused on objective at that point and not focused enough on being able to get the kills to make space. And as I'm saying this, you know, it's just going to come down to Dante. 3 up on the board. Like, this is a really tough spot for BBR to be in. A really tough spot to be able to bounce back on. They need to start pulling some flags and making some slays.
Yeah, Dante was just being a nuisance for the side of BBR, and they're 3 dead again. Adz is the last one left alive. Dante's pulled him out, and they'll take him down. So BBR are going to be spawning over in Fridge. It's going to be a tough time to stop this flag as Slays is moving it through Car 2. Beeston's looking over to Pink as well. He's going to grab some dynamo grenades to help him out. Dante gets another. There's only 3 of them alive, and Slays is going to try and move this in. The shots and nades are going to come in. They are. He does run it in, though, and they will cap. It's a player right there, and he'll take him down. Slays still manages to turn around. What are these beatdowns going on? Are they got one-shot beatdowns, Bluey?
No, that was a back smack. That was pretty much a ninja, but Slays didn't get the medal for it. Like, it's super unfortunate. I just want to mention, like, I think that's the second time we've seen Slays with a flag run, and at the same time, he's going 21 and 10. Like, look at the points that this dude is putting on the board, all while playing objective for his team. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, what does BBR have to respond to a play like that in a game like this right now? You can't just click all of a sudden and make that adjustment on the fly. Like, from this point on, it just seems like they've kind of got to take this game in stride and figure out how they can move on to the next hockey.
Camo again in the hands of Beeston, so Divine Mind has managed to grab almost every single camo. And it's funny that you point out Slays is on 22 kills because the kills were really even across the whole board. BBR do have a flag running though. Camo in the hands of Beeston. He tries to get some shots down. He will look across. He'll find Codestar. Brattles is trying to run it in. He's one shot. He gets stopped right on the flag. Slays is coming in for the reset. He's going to grab it, throw it out. Adz is going to do what he can. He's going to try and get a grab, but it's 3 dead for BBR. Adz is the only one. All he can do is get a touch, and it looks like it will probably be a return for Divine Minds, and Divine Minds are going to take the game 5-0 most likely.
So disheartening for BBR there. They almost had one in, you know, it wouldn't have been as unfortunate, but, you know, they do get a goal line stand there. They do stop the flag just from being a 5-0, but I don't know how they're going to be able to, like, capture any of this momentum here, Hoggy. It was instantly broken as soon as they got stopped right on the edge of the flag there. Maybe Brattles can make something happen. Maybe BBR can come as a collective, but 2 minutes 50 left in the game is not enough time for them to be able to put 4 flags on the board.
Yeah, the shots and nades must have come through because I thought this was a cap for sure, but BBR managed to stop it, but it is going to go in. Berserk's there to help out, see if they can get it in to make it 5-0 and take the first game, and they do. So Divine Minds go up 1-0 against BBR.
Man, that is not what we expected. I thought maybe we talked about it too much. Maybe I got it in my head a little bit too much that BBR would be able to take a really good, like, measured control of that map, because we've seen them go up against Chiefs, which is such a strong team, on Aquarius and play so well objective-wise, and then they came into that game, they were just frazzled. It was like they were asleep at the wheel. I don't know. Did some players just not have their monitors on for half that game? I had no idea. Just not the performance that you want to be putting up.
Yeah, Slays 23 kills, 14 deaths, 10 assists. The assists, look at the assists on the side of Divine Minds in comparison. It's just, you can't even compare really.
Cody with only 3? 3 assists?
Oh, he had the most kills. Come on, he had the most kills.
Yeah, but still, like, that could just be him picking off Brattles, you know, 10 assists right there. So what does that really mean in the end? Everything, that isn't scores on the board. That isn't objective plays, and that isn't just Slays overall that's getting them enough time to put on the map. Like, especially in comparison to Slays there, he's up 2k damage on pretty much the entirety of BBR there. So, like, he just played absolutely, like, phenomenally there in that game. 2 triple kills.
2 triple kills.
Man, like, what was he doing? Like, he was just exterminating the entire team and making it just a pathway for the entirety of Divine Mind to be able to cut through the map and grab that flag.
Yeah, and midway through the game, we saw that a lot of the kills on the side of Divine Minds are pretty even. You can see it right now in the replays. It's 5, 7, 4, and 6. They're all pretty even. And then Slays just popped off. He probably got those 2 triple kills like almost in a row and just sort of kept BBR on respawn, and that was probably how they got cap number 3 and number 4.
I said that, like, in the beginning when they went up those 2 flags, or maybe it might have been the first one, that they probably didn't need to play as aggressively, but they did anyway. Like, they did not listen. They put on the pressure full fold. There was no passive play whatsoever. They really wanted to give it to BBR and make sure, like, yeah, you guys aren't making it past the halfway point of this map. And, like, you're going to look at camo. You're never going to touch it, though. Like, we're going to grab it every single time. So BBR really struggled on that point that you made before about just overall map control and being able to get power weapons and stuff like camo. I don't think they managed to capture even one at all, Hoggy. Like, really tough for them.
Yeah, and I pointed out that they were sticking to P side a few times, and we saw that Adz and Brattles both went for flanks on P sides before their team had even really got onto the car side. So then it just means you're just giving control of utility to the side of Divine Minds, and you know, they used it to full advantage.
Yeah, at no point did it seem like they had any map control, any power control whatsoever, which going into this second map here is absolutely crucial on streets because, of course, you're swapping out, these puny little weapons like a heat wave or whatever for rockets. You're guaranteed 2 kills, maybe even more if you hit a good double or something like that. So they need to be fighting for objective play right now. And by objective play, I mean the power weapon play. That's what they need to be fighting for because this is a Slayer match. It's all about the kills, and you need rockets like power weapons to make the differences in the scoreboard.
Yeah, and this is a map that if you really do get control of the other team's spawns, you can 4 down them, run to the other side of the map. If you use teamwork correctly, you can 4 down them again, run back to the other side, and it could get ugly if they don't step up here, BBR, because they struggled in game number 1 to keep any sort of power weapon control, and if rockets get into the hand of Divine Mind every time, we might even see that. As we go into game number 2, BBR, can they bring it back against Divine Mind? We're on board with Slays. He goes straight in for ads and will take him down. It's a perfect 4 shot. 2 dead now for BBR, and the rockets are in the hands of Berserk. Berserk is just chilling out down the bottom of B stairs. He's going to back out though. He's got the call out from his teammates that they're all over on B side. Probably won't push out with the rockets. It's just 2 points each for each team. So Berserk stay alive with these rockets as best he can. And it looks like he's lagged out. That's pretty unfortunate. Hopefully not, but maybe he has. We're on board with Slays though, and hopefully he hasn't lagged out, Bluey.
Yeah, but that just for a general pacemaker for the beginning of the game there, Slays getting that out BR there on B stairs is massive because that actually guarantees just overall power weapon control. Absolutely ridiculous for him to be able to do that there. That's a huge game changer. That's a huge pace setter overall. Like instant control of the rockets. We can take their spawn, we can take C side of the map and start making those spawn rotations and get them on the spawns every single time.
Yep, so it's good to see that it looks like Berserk hasn't dropped out. So probably just a little bit of a spectator issue, but we're back on board with Slays, and he's putting up the numbers that he was in the first game. He's starting off strong. He's got 2 kills already. He's up against Ads again, but he doesn't want to fight that one. Ads takes him down. It's 1 dead for each team. Bulldog in the hands of Dante, who finds a back smack on Ads for free. He's working with Beaston, though, on C stairs. Codestar's up there. He'll call him out. Get some shots down. His nade's going to kill Beaston, though. Oh, no. Wait, how is he alive? How is he alive? What the hell? Cody comes down, though, and he'll take down a double. It's 3 dead now for Divine Minds. Last one alive is Berserk, and he's up on B. How did he not kill Beaston with
the
that
grenade? Didn't even matter though, Hoggy. Beaston went down anyway. There was too much pressure from B Overlook. Like, yes, of course, the grenade made a huge difference damage-wise. Very unfortunate, but there's no way Beaston was going to get out of that situation because they couldn't take Cody out of that top tram position that he had. He already had the cross looking at Pink Street and where Beaston was already sitting. So, there was not much that they could do there. The grenade was a very unfortunate play, but as I say that, we do see Rockets manage to come back in the hands of Divine Mind. I think, yeah, Slays had them. He went down, and so Dante has them again. He's managed to recapture them up on, like, that top vendor. So we're going to see if they can make a huge play here. I'm actually finding it kind of hard to see where BBR is taking main positions. I think it's B, between B and C Tram, Hoggy.
Yeah, it's 15 points to 12 though at the moment. Dante's going to push over, as you said. They're all over on this side of the map. He's got the call-outs. He's got 3 of his teammates next to him, so they're not going to try to push out too crazily. They just want them to come to them. Slays finds a free kill on Ads. Berserk will go down, so it's a trade for either side. Braddles is pushing up. He gets the rockets. He doesn't manage to get him though. Braddles gets the kill. Dante trying to go in too strong. Beaston was the last man alive. BBR's calling him out. And Berserk comes off the respawn to help him out. Teammate from BBR jumps out to take down a kill. Evil gets help as well, so it's 2 kills down for either team. And it's back and forth. Slays has got the Bulldog in hand though, Bluey.
Yeah, really tight scoreline here. I think why I'm so confused as to where teams are sort of taking positions here is because none of them are really. They're both sort of just like playing do-si-do around the map, making these circles, rotating Cafe PD, and then like their spawns are following suit. So it's really difficult. Usually we see teams sort of take one position and hold it just for the spawns, but that doesn't seem to be what team is doing here. And I can't tell if it's a mind game thing going on between 2 of the teams or it's just luck of the draw here. But it's a really weird game of Ring Around the Rosie, and I think that's why we're seeing the scores be as close as what they are right now. But you do see these kills come out from Slays right now, and they're about to hit that 25 kill mark just from that push.
Yeah, the last 2 players from BBR are right in front of Slays. He's got Bulldog as well. Dante's 1 shot in front of him. Braddles is the last man over on B and Arcade side. Slays knows the rockets are up in 4 seconds. They're going to push towards Braddles. Braddles is being really sneaky. Slays is just going to call out for his teammates as he's trying to flake around the back of tower. 2 to go down though for Divine Minds. They won't be able to get the rockets. As
They knew he was there.
His teammate cleans him up. The rockets are in the hands of BBR now. This is their chance, Bluey.
Yeah, like it's going to be interesting to see BBR have these rockets they're pushing through Tyre's side, but as they've pinged that cafe spawn, it gives them a little bit, like they have to push a little bit more. They can't just free fire these rockets across the map and guarantee themselves 2 points on the scoreboard. They're going to have to play a little bit more strategically here and take the positions that matter, and we see Beaston just push in to PD freely, and he managed to take some ads. They knew that that was going to happen because that call was already made, but BBR still managed to go 3 down. What is going on?
Yeah, it was a perfect flank from Slaze. He came from B stairs right behind BBR, got the shots they needed to make them weak, and they just collapsed on CodeStar for the last kill. But there's still only 2 kills ahead, Bluey, so the game's still pretty close, and BBR have just been trapped a little bit in the last 2 minutes of the game, but the game's still close.
Yeah, it is, but like sort of what BBR trade out for a kill, Divine Mind will trade out for 2, like just as we're seeing right now, if not 3. They're 3 down, they know Ads is the last person in C-Tram. That's an easy push. They have no real contest there. But as I say that, the BBR managed to just magically spawn C-Tram, so they have the entirety of the team there now, so it's going to take a huge coordinated push from Divine Mind to be able to pick up a couple of kills here. Dante narrowly avoiding to kill himself with that spike nade. So it's good. Can BBR hold this position? No, they don't, because Dante's just going to come through with a shotgun, get a couple of kills. Like it's a really tough position for BBR to be in. They don't really just seem to have like that map control that we expected for them to come in with from the first game, and it's not transitioning at all. They're losing it. They're being a bit frantic, and they're not keeping track of the spawns as well as they should be.
Yeah, both teams not able to stay alive for much longer than a few seconds. Every time we change to them, someone's going down. 4 kills is the gap. Adzi gets a free melee for a kill. Berserk gets a double. It's 3 down now for BBR. Brattles, the last man alive. Evil will spawn right next to him, and they're going to head towards bottom middle. Brattles, he's found Berserk. Berserk back down. He drops down the shield and uses it to his advantage. So Brattles going to have to run. Berserk chases him down. Shots from Ads. He goes down as well. So every time we're changing to a BBR member, they're getting team shot from Divine Mind. So the callouts are coming through. Rockets in the hands of Slaze again. He'll get himself a free double kill. The players of BBR are stuck in Tram. Slaze doesn't care. He'll go out. Beaston's going out as well. They just keep flying in every time.
Yeah, I don't know if it's too much confidence here. You know, they did have a good double kill from Slaze that helped sort of take out the map a little bit more. Oh, that pulse carbine switch there was so clean from Beaston. You know, but this is that end of game blowout that we're so used to seeing. At this point, it's really hard to start to control the map. So if BBR wants to bring this back, they have 7 kills to catch up on. 10 kills in total if they want to win the game. They have to really start slowing down. It's only 2 kills now for the difference. I don't think they can do it, Hoggy. It's too much of an ask.
Yeah, now 2 kills the difference. 1 will go down. Slaze knows there's another one in PD, but his teammate cleans up another, and that's Divine Mind taking the series and the game 50-42. They'll move on to the next round. So, strong start for Divine Mind. BBR, they'll have to bring it back in the next round.
Yeah, BBR were your boys, Hoggy. Are you a little bit?
They were my boys.
Are you a little bit disappointed? Is that a crushing
I am a
blow?
little disappointed. They didn't really have too many power weapon controls, as I was saying earlier on. So
they should have listened to the stream. How about that? Maybe next time you can maybe just call them up next time and be like, hey guys, this is what you need to do. Start coaching. How about that?
Yeah, maybe I should.
Jump into the coach slot there for Hoggy. But lads, you know, obviously Divine Mind, they got themselves a 2-0 here up against BBR. Unfortunately, that first map was a little bit of a shellacking being handed out there by Divine Mind. A 5-0 on CTF is never really what you want to see here. But we came into the Slayer map, and you know, Bluey, they were at least able to make it look competitive, but it just seemed like Divine Mind were just on a little bit of an extra level here for BBR. They're going to drop into that elimination bracket, and they certainly can make a run through it, but this is where it's really kind of do or die for the BBR boys.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Divine Mind, I think they had a star player there in Slays. He was just outputting too much damage. They were giving him too much sort of map control overall. He was just to be able to run freely, and you don't want that in that kind of freedom in the hands of a Slayer like Slays, because that's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to slay until the cows come home, and that's exactly what he did. You know, he had 5k damage as opposed to the rest of his team there with 3, and then all across the board for BBR, they all had 3k damage. So at that point, you sort of got to look at your team and be like, okay, we need someone who's going to be like our main damage dealer. We need a Slayer on the team right now, and I just feel that in both maps that we saw, BBR never had that.
Yeah, they didn't really have that kind of standout performer that you really like to see from some of these teams. You know, we're really starting to get into the point now, the pointy end of Halo Infinite, where we're starting to see these players have these defined roles. And right now it feels like BBR are still kind of, they're working together as a team, but they just don't have that extra bit of chemistry that goes to the point where, you know, you're really being able to see them lock down a lot of these power weapons, really be able to lock down parts of the map. And I think BBR, this is probably a pretty good learning experience for them, right, Hoggy? The fact that they're able to come here, test a few things out up against Divine Mind, albeit it's kind of do or die in that elimination bracket, but this is certainly going to be a pretty big eye-opener for them to go up against the top 2 teams straight away.
Yeah, and they weren't able to play in last week's tournament, but they've proven that they can be at this level, but maybe just not at the Divine Minds level yet, you know? So they've placed in the top.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing for us, is them be able to shine there in an elimination bracket. And obviously, Blue, there has been some shining moments here, but Divine Minds, you know, obviously being able to get the first series out of the way is a nice little, you know, sigh of relief for them not have to drop a map here or even go into that elimination bracket. So how are you feeling about Divine Mind today? Are they looking good? You know, are they able to try and put up some big numbers against maybe Immunity or even the Chiefs today?
Oh, yeah, they're looking super strong, and it's actually interesting. Like, some of the roles seem to have switched within the team. I think we're usually used to seeing someone like Berserk. Last week, he was putting up huge numbers throughout all his games, but now that's sort of falling into the hand of Slay. So I don't know if he'll be able to carry that momentum forward into the next game. Maybe sort of Berserk is taking a different kind of role within the team, and it's letting Slay shine a little bit more differently than what we're used to seeing. But overall, like, this match, it was a bit of a stomp there against BBR, especially in that first match. You know, the second match was a little bit tighter, but when you look at the things like map control, like power weapon control, Divine Mind was all over that, and those are key essential things that you need to take in the games going forward. And if they're able to retain that sort of structure, that mentality, then yeah, they're going to do great today.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing, right? Just being able to make sure that you start up strong with this structure and really be able to move that into a lot of their series. And lads, speaking of structure, might be able to get a little bit more of these extra insights. We've got the Divine Mind coach here on the line. Let's have a chat to him and see what he can bring to the table for us here. Obviously, Bids, last time we had a chat to you, there was a little bit of that, you know, sour taste coming in from Raleigh. Now you guys are able to put up some pretty big form here in the Pro Series. How are you guys feeling like this Pro Series number 2 is going to be a little bit different after, you know, obviously the way the Grand Final went for you guys in Pro Series number 1?
We've been playing the game a lot more this week. You know, the boys have been on pretty much every night throughout the week, going through VODs, you know, scrimming a lot. So now that we've got a bit of practice, we should be seeing it a little bit different, hopefully.
Yeah, obviously this week you have a bit of a lineup change. You're bringing in Dante. How has that affected the team dynamic at all? Has that changed much within the team? Have you had to adjust at all, or is it just as strong as what you feel it was before?
Yeah, no, he was in the lineup last week.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my bad.
Comp. Yeah. So it's pretty much been the same. We've just got a lot more practice under our belt this time. So like last week,
last week
in the comp, there was like 2 days of practice, if that, and now, you know, we've had a whole extra week, so it should be good.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, and last week you mentioned about Beeston and how everyone was looking out for Beeston, because Beeston's coming from a Call of Duty background. He's been competitive. He's been at the top for a long time in Call of Duty. So how is he fitting into the team now that you've brought him in and sort of given him the opportunity?
He's doing really well. You know, everyone's super surprised. You know, he's on every day just grinding, you know, and he's doing exactly what he needs to do.
Yeah, and obviously the final question before I let you guys go here into the next kind of series here, Beat, is I've got a question for you. Obviously, there's been a roster mania going in ANZ right now. Is this the roster you guys are going to permanently stay with, or is there still a few more things that are up in the air for you guys here on Divine Mind?
All right.
All right, sure.
No. We're feeling out Angus, Slazy, Berserk, and Beeston are pretty locked in. Dante's looking very good, but we're just seeing where his head's at. You know, he's pretty tight with the BBR boys. Unfortunately, he had to do him like that in that last series, but you know, it just comes down to what he wants to do, and then we just gotta take it from there.
Exactly. Well, thanks for the wonderful insight here, BD. It's super exciting to be able to have a coach give his insights here across the team, especially a team who's been doing so well, much like the Divine Mind. So congratulations on the series victory, and hopefully see you guys a bit deeper in the bracket as well.
Oh, you will. All right, catch you boys later.
Cheers, mate. A lot of confidence coming in there from BDiz. I love it. You know, giving us that little bit of extra. I feel like every single time that we talk to him here on the desk, he gives us a little bit of, you know, something there into the background. Obviously, talking to the players, you get a whole lot of insights about how that's going. But hearing from a coach is just that extra bit of, you know, kind of perspective and gives us something a little bit more that maybe the players won't give us.
Yeah, it's a completely different sort of like a ball game that you're playing when you're talking to a coach as opposed to the players, because the coaches get to see the whole picture. Whereas, you know, a player might be a little bit more focused on one or two things in their individual play style. A coach is seeing all of their team across the board, what they're excelling at, sort of maybe what they need to improve on a little bit more, and for them to give us that insight, and it comes across in the games too. It's super interesting, and it's something that I would like to see more of. So if there are any coaches of any other teams who want to jump on after some of the matches, yeah, like give us a shout.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of the players are going to be happy not have to do these interviews. I feel like every single esport that I've done, every single player is running for the hills. As soon as their series is done, they're like, I don't want to be a part of any of these interviews. I don't want to have to chat to anybody. But either way, we still do love to hear the insights of all the people here in ANZ. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to go to a quick break. We've got another series on the other side of this, and I bet everybody in chat is super excited about this. We've got the Chiefs and Immunity going head-to-head in a best of three, so make sure you guys don't miss it.